Nick Eatman, DallasCowboys.com, back from Carolina with the headline on DallasCowboys.com. Something has to change on defense because you just lost to the worst starting quarterback in the NFL.
It's interesting.
Worst?
Tell me I'm wrong. I mean, how is that wrong? I mean, he may not be now because he won another game, but
yeah,
he is. I mean, statistically, I mean, he was the worst starting quarterback with a 79.9 quarterback rating, but now he went for 114 on you with his quarterback rating. So
what can change, Nick? Like let's just go inside the meeting room today.
Well, for me, the zone. I mean, zone defense has to change, in my opinion. I mean, and however much they're playing, I think that they've played less than they did like a few weeks ago, and it was almost 90%.
Yeah.
But as I wrote in the article, and this is something I just don't understand, but do you need $20 million a year corners to play zone? I mean, like I just don't. I don't get that part. I mean, I feel like if the corners that you have are here, you're paying them handsomely because of their coverage skills, then they need to do that. And in a game where Rico Dowdle and Bryce Young are battling to see who gets 200 yards first, that to me suggests that you better stop the run and just put it all on him. Put it all on Bryce Young, because history shows, other than Alabama, he's not going to get the job done. So why was there cushion? Why was there time where he was going 5 or 6 yards? That's what I don't understand when you're going up against a quarterback that is not winning in the NFL, and they made him look good and they made him be comfortable when I think that they should have been in his face the entire game.
I agree. My thing on the 4th and 4, it goes back to your salary point as well. Like, okay, You want to be tricky with the scheme and have Kenneth Murray or a player come out of nowhere. I get that, but I am paying the guy $90 million. I think I'd rather rely. That tells me to rely more on the player playing press man or closer to the line of scrimmage than Kenneth Murray, who is already getting criticized this year, and you have him starting off on the wrong side of the center. So do I want Kenneth Murray in movement, surprising Bryce Young, or just go straight up with my $90 million corner?
I know. And it goes back to the pressure, too. I mean, he's a shorter quarterback, so when you get in his face and you collapse the pocket, it becomes even shorter, honestly. And so they needed to do that. When he was rushed and backed up at times, he threw the ball away a lot. So
he struggled against the blitz mightily this year. And Bobby, what was your blitz stat? Sorry to cut you off, Nick. I just want you to know this.
Good. How many times they did yesterday, or what Bryce's numbers were? Yes, so 5 times. They blitzed him 5 times, which was tied for the fewest they've done all year.
Back to you.
That's my response. Because on a 10-play drive, I think that's how many times I would like to blitz him. 5, like on a drive. I don't get it, because who's getting home? You know, that clip was nice about James Houston last week and all that, but like he didn't do anything today. Clowney, I mean, Fowler, had eight pressures last week. I can remember any, so they're not winning off the line. That offensive line, I don't know anybody on their offensive line, but I mean, credit to them, because they did an awesome job, and it's sad because they're wasting they're wasting the performances by this offense and the quarterback.
You mentioned in the offense there, and we're talking with Nick Eatman from DallasCowboys.com. Nick, you mentioned in the offense, obviously they kind of carried you yesterday, but it was a bad time to have that really bad series, the 3-and-out right before Carolina got the ball back to finish things up. Just in general, how much blame can you put on the offense for keeping you in a game like that, but then also being like, in the biggest moment, you gave us the worst series you've probably put on offense all year? Yeah,
I mean, it's very similar to the college team that I cover this year. It's unbelievably, remarkably the same. And it forces your offense to be perfect, because the way the defense is played, your offense just has to be perfect. They pretty much have to score almost every single time. And now that was a questionable series, of course, because one thing that we've seen is that regardless of what they did, Carolina could not cover George Pickens. They couldn't. And so in that drive, the biggest drive of the game, I think I'm trying to get the ball to Pickens. It almost felt like that Schottenheimer said, we're going to go score and we're going to try to work clock in doing it. And they didn't get a first down. They went backwards, actually. And so that was, those calls obviously weren't great. But slants, anything, comebacks to Pickens, they weren't covering them. And when they were, it was interference. So that's one series that they would like to have that back.
Nick Eatman, D&M Leasing Hotline from DallasCowboys.com right here on the Fan. What was it like in the locker room? And my follow-up to that is, and I'm not suggesting they're close to being there yet, but I also would like to know if you've ever covered a team here where the offense turned on the defense internally or vice versa.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely happens, and it happens mostly without the media, but you definitely know that there's jabs that are being said one way or another. Has it happened? Yes, I'm sure. I know it has. But not to the point where it was a major deal, and that's on the head coach for trying to keep it together. And in this case, like you said earlier, I mean, the offense, it wasn't perfect. And the offense, it wasn't just that drive too, but like too many times after a huge play to get them down inside the 10, they weren't scoring. And the lack of running game really, really hurt them. Because they couldn't get anything. But that fumbled snap by Dak was a big play, because now it's 2nd and 10, and then they throw the lob up to Pickens, and I'm not sure if they misread it with each other or just a bad throw or whatever it was, but that was a touchdown that was there that was missed. And next thing you know, they get a field goal. So the offense, struggled in the red zone as well, but it's hard to really, you don't put a lot of emphasis on them. It's just that because of the way the defense is, they have to be perfect. I mean, we've seen 2 games this year where they scored 37 points in regulation, and it wasn't good enough to win. And one of them they did win, one they tied, but still 37 points at the end of regulation should get you a win.
You think we were approaching that in 2003 with the offense getting, wasn't great. Defense was top 5 scoring in the league. That may have happened. I have to go back and remember. I don't remember it, but that may have been the year where you saw that happen. Other than that, I can't think.
It did definitely was. It felt like it was starting when DeMarcus Lawrence and Dak Prescott were publicly talking about who was going to score more touchdowns each week, the defense or the offense.
Yeah,
that was starting to feel tense when I think that was 2017 or 18 before Coop took over.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and the year that Cooper Rush took over those 5 games for Dak. I mean that was clear that they were winning based off of defense. I think everybody knew that. That wasn't even a tense situation. Everyone kind of knew that was going on. But yeah, I mean, and this is up to Shoddy to make sure that it doesn't get that way. And I think in Dak as well. I think Dak is really good from that standpoint. But yeah, I mean, it's a bad. I mean, I went back and looked at this stat. This is interesting. 38 times now in history or Cowboys history that they have 0 turnovers and 0 sacks allowed, and they're 33-5 now in those games. Mm-hmm. And 4 of those 5s were 3 points or less, decided by. But just that's not the kind of history that you want to make. But I mean, you don't give up a sack on offense. You don't turn the ball over. You actually won the turnover battle, and don't win the game and lose to a quarterback that, in my opinion, is not an NFL caliber quarterback. I mean, and that's what I believe. I never thought that way coming out of the draft. I just feel like, they should be able to blitz him more and he'll break down. And that's the sad part is they didn't do that. They didn't do that.
Nick, when Matt Eberflus has talked on Thursdays, stuff comes up about Diggs or other things like that. He's kind of held a firm line about his beliefs and has focused on player execution. Brian Schottenheimer called him a great coach yesterday. Jerry Jones has really kind of put some cover of this is not a coach problem, this is a player problem. So to this point, there's been kind of a hedge built around Eberflus in terms of the responsibility has not fallen on him at all in most cases. Is that going to start shifting, do you think, at all in Schottenheimer's statements or Jerry's statements?
Well, in their statements, I'm not sure.
Or behind the scenes.
Yeah, right. Or not make the statement at all, which is, like it didn't, Jerry didn't even talk yesterday. And there may be, and I don't know the whole reason for that. Sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes it's a logistics thing. But, when it comes to Eberflus, Diggs, I know some of the comments that were made. I have a hard time getting in the middle of all that because you can make the case both one way or another. I mean, there was a guy that wasn't here this offseason too. So and I love Trayvon, but for me, he doesn't have a lot of legs to stand on when it comes to scheme and who's doing the right thing and all that. When all the install, all the OT, all the stuff like that, he wasn't around for. So naturally that is going to be the case. But I know this. Go out there and cover number 12 or cover number 3. That's not that hard to do. And that's what he should be doing, in my opinion. That's what he's good at. That's what Bland's good at. And I think that's what this defense would be better at because they don't rush the passer consistently and they don't seem to have a great understanding from cornerbacks to safeties. It's like they don't get along. They don't communicate for whatever the reason. I don't know. So to me, and again, I don't know how to run a defense, but we're talking about. It looks like they have to dial up pressure that they said they were going to do, and that they haven't done. They need to dial up the pressure and let these cornerbacks that you're paying like you're paying cover their guy.
You more surprised that this run D got gashed, or that the offensive line had Javonte at 2 yards a carry?
Yeah. Ooh. I'm going to go Cowboys-Packers on that one and just say tie. I mean, I was surprised by both. I just kept thinking, like, the press conference with Micah's press conference, like, wait, I thought they were supposed to stop the run, like stopping the run. That's what they chose to do here. And they're not at all. So I was surprised by that. But then on the offensive side with Tyler Smith back, Hoffman, to me, Hoffman has always done a good job when he's in there. Bass, I mean, there hasn't been any kind of drop off, and I was really shocked by that they just could not get anything going, and he was getting hit at the line of scrimmage every single time.
Thank you, brother. We'll talk on Wednesday. Appreciate it.
All right, see you guys.
Now, I had a conversation with a few people yesterday because I think we all
in the world,
yes,
okay,
feel like we know what the answer is to this. But if the Cowboys have the right personnel, then what's the real problem with the defense? Because that is
the plays they call.
What Schottenheimer said yesterday. He was asked if he has the personnel to run Matt Eberflus's defensive scheme, and he said, yeah, absolutely, no question about it. And I got some pushback from some people who were like, well, what's he supposed to say? And I honestly, my answer was, well, clearly that's what we thought. We thought we had the right personnel. We thought we had made the right plays, but clearly that is not the case. So we're going to reevaluate not only the scheme, but the players and what we're doing. So something along that felt like far less positive, because the way he answered that question makes it feel like, oh, yeah, what a foolish question. Of course, we're awesome. And so then if it's not the personnel, what's the problem with the defense?
Can we say a combination of everything?
I mean, at this point,
because the personnel is
yes.
definitely like what you do with Donovan Wilson, you can't continue to do.
Yep.
Thought they made the decision that they, oh, yeah, you know what? Everybody else that's watching that's been saying this is right. Because it seemed like they kind of made a couple of adjustments. I know injury was a part of it too, but you can't do that. So that person is part of your personnel. He does not fit what you're asking of him. Why are you continuing to ask him to do those things then? What is it about him? You're not trying to hide him in center field because you need him in center field.
Right.
What are you doing out? And then why are you, so scheme-wise, why are you playing Deron Bland 15 yards off of receiver whenever you have this play that needs to be happening right here if you know that the linebacker that you have can't get there?
See, and I think Deron Bland is a better example of curiosity for me than Trayvon Diggs. I know what Trayvon Diggs right now is playing so far off the line of scrimmage because he doesn't think that he can either stay with or catch up to a wide receiver who outmoves him. So that's why he's playing so far off the ball. Now, if you think that's a product of he's still returning from injury and it was always going to take time, Okay, if you think that's a product of he's donezo, well, that's obviously hugely problematic. It's probably problematic either way, but that second one feels really problematic.
This is one of the things, Kevin, where when I was saying don't lie to me, whenever I know what I see on the field, that line of no, we have the personnel,
right,
feels like a lie to me. And this is one of the reasons that a lot of Cowboys fans get so upset with Jerry Jones and Steven, because they'll talk to us. And I love the conversations we get to have. We get to have some unique, interesting, weird conversations sometimes. Sometimes they're tough. Sometimes they're light. It all kind of depends on how things go. But doesn't it feel like for the longest time over the history of bad times, Jerry Jones has said things were fine when they clearly were not.
Yes.
And that's that frustrates fans.
Yes.
So when Brian Schottenheimer's like, no, we got the pieces, that is, in my mind, him saying, I got to buy more time for whatever it is, or I'm covering up a lot of things by just saying, yeah, we got the pieces that's going to eventually work out. Because right now it doesn't even look like it has a chance to. So, Kevin, I don't think they have the personnel that fits it. I don't think the scheme is correct. And I don't think that the play caller is on top of his game by any means right now. The defensive play caller is, while Schottenheimer and Dak are in their bag, it seems that a lot of times, except for on that one that we really needed one, it just, and actually, isn't that 2 in a row? Like the Packers game, they got beat on that. This one, they got beat on that. That's where I feel like it's just a combination of all three things, and that you said was a lie, because they don't have the pieces.
And I've already seen a lot of people say this. I'm sure that Drum will continue to get beaten this week. I do not want to see the Cowboys make any trades with the first round picks they got. Now, if you want to make like Pickens-esque trades where you use some of your day 2 or day 3 draft picks for players that will be here, then I'm fine with that.
Like make moves that dudes could be here for a couple years.
Gotcha,
I got you.
Exactly. But there is no part of me, and I think for Cowboys fans, there should be no part of you, but I'm not going to tell you how to fan, who wants the Cowboys to trade any first-round draft pick asset, because I just don't see how you could think that it's just one player or anything like that. Hell, Micah could be back on this team, and I still don't think I would advocate trading one of your, like, if you still had bonus first-round draft picks to get another player. This defense just feels so far away. It is definitely further than one player away, and I do not want to see any future traded for this season.
Do you think it needs like a complete overhaul at every position?
See, not necessarily, and that's
because Ezraku is still growing. So you're dealing with growing pains there.
Look, and
Kenneth Murray is not playing well at all.
Yeah, Kenneth Murray and Jack Sanborn. I mean, look, and I know Sanborn obviously was still dealing with issues from his concussion, but it doesn't feel like they're the answers. This is where I think, and you're going to, I'm assuming, move on from Sam Williams at the end of the season because of his contract. But if you want to lean on Ezraku and Leafau and hope that Overshown comes back, like, I see the promise of that, but in addition to a talent deficiency, you clearly have a scheme deficiency. It can be both.
Over the weekend in the pregame show, I heard Chiafalo say, hey, I'd love to try and snag Demario Davis from the Saints. Older, still playing well, though. I think he did get burned on a play this week, but it's fine. It's the
Everybody
Saints.
does.
Kevin, and then, but brought us also asked Steven on Friday, hey, you can slap me down if I'm off base about this, but what about a trade? Like, how would that kind of go? And Steven was like, I think you are off base. You know, we're not seeking it. We don't need it. If one presents itself.
Yeah.
And that makes me feel like they're just kind of hovering around waiting for something to pop up. And I don't know that they will use those picks, Kevin. I don't think they would to go get something. But somebody just texted in, you could get 2 players with those first 2 picks.
To what end? If you tell me
you get 2 players with 2 picks.
Okay.
I love that text.
If you tell me that you think picking up, Trey Hendrickson or whoever, I'm assuming is the direction that this is going to go, and you think that's going to fit the defense, please tell me who those 2 players are. Because I think you could get not reincarnated. I think you could get prime Aaron Donald here right now and then go pick up another player, and I would still have questions. If you could get me, prime Revis Island and prime Aaron Donald, then maybe I would listen to making those moves.
Well, and that's players make plays, right?
Yes.
You have players that can make plays? No, it doesn't look like it.
It does not look like it.
You're not forcing turnovers. So
Not
players
getting
make
pressure.
plays. You have more players, you can make those plays. The scheme is kind of part of it as well, but players make plays. Kevin, the line that your coach said so many times yesterday was we weren't physical enough.
Yeah.
And this seems like a history now of this team lacking the physicality to go say, I'm going to push you around. They got pushed all over the place yesterday.
Okay. So, but not
They're not the players.
And that's an issue then, not physical enough where? On the offensive line, where Tyler Smith agreed that they were probably
Yes.
not.
On the defensive line? Yes.
On the defensive line, where Rico Dowdle is the first player with 230 yards from scrimmage in back-to-back games since Le'Veon Bell 11 years ago. By the way, Rico Dowdle this season, 200-plus yards from scrimmage, 2 games. Rest of the NFL combined, 1. And so, fine. Is it the defensive line that's not being physical enough? Or let's go to the secondary. Bryce Young against zone coverage, 85% of the time on his dropbacks. He completed 14 of 21 passes for 174 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception, although that interception was obviously off of a drop. So you weren't getting to him then. Let's go back to the combination of the coverage and the pass rush. The quarterback for Carolina, he started the game 3 for 3 on passes of 20-plus yards. Do you know what he was going into this game? 3 for 12 with 2 interceptions and no touchdowns, which means going
that's
in
improvement.
No, for him, actually, yes, that's a huge improvement. But think about it. Going into this game, you were almost as likely to get an interception as a completion on a 20-plus yard pass from Bryce Young in the air. And instead, what did you get? 3 for 3. So, okay, fine. Who wasn't being physical enough? The secondary? Is it the linebackers? Is it the defensive line? Is it the offensive line? Is your answer yes to all 4 of those?
Yes.
That's not good.
Yes, and. Okay? I don't think you expected this, did you?
Oh, it's like improv.
Yeah, he didn't expect it. Yes, all 4. And Carolina was more physical than you.
Yeah.
So it was like you can go out there and be not physical and play a non-physical opponent. They went out there and played an opponent that was like, we will be more physical than you, and they had no answer to it. And that right there, Kevin, when Diggs says we don't have an identity, when you know your identity, you don't get beat around like that. When you have the morale, you don't get pushed around like that because somebody in that huddle is holding you accountable and saying it's not going to happen to us again. So that's the yes and. You went up against an opponent that said, we're going to push you around. They just did it to Miami the week before, and they had confidence they could do it again, and then it wasn't buckled up, as Rico Dowdle said. That's the fear, Kevin. You're going to run into Denver here soon, who is going to be more physical than you.
Right.
You're going to run into more defenses and offenses on the schedule that are going to be more physical than you, and if you don't decide to show up and say, I'm not going to let that happen, you're going to get pushed all over the field.
Okay, you just said something that I think is a football philosophical question. I'm sure some of it is internal inside of you, but what do you think is the breakdown between being physical? Like just pure talent versus the want to? Because that comes up with rebounding. Surely you can have some inherent rebounding and angle judging skills, or you can be like Dennis Rodman and just watch shot after shot after shot and learn the bounce pattern and say, I'm going to get it. Same question here with physicality. How much of it is just pure, raw strength and power versus want to?
75% strength and power.
Okay.
25% want to.
Okay, because I actually kind of like
5%.
That's too much percent.
All right.
I actually like that because it feels like we do not do a good job of judging the want to of players. So hopefully we can judge the measurables.
Because if you call a player soft, it's like they're in the NFL. What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
There's no way they're soft. They're in the NFL.
Comparably.
Yeah.
But yes, I'm with you.
Well, I saw what I saw. I'm not saying they gave up. I don't know. Maybe they're incapable of getting to that next place. You thudded up all during training camp. You thudded up as hard as you could. That thudding up hasn't transferred, not in this game at least.
So, 2 follow-up questions. Would you load up your fantasy roster with offensive players going against the Cowboys going forward?
1,000%. 1,000%.
And as one fan texter suggested, do you think we should now call it the Cowboys offense? Because there's no D there.
Oh, you mean like a fence door?
Shut up. I'm not getting drugged back into this conversation.
It's so much more the Joneses' fault than anybody else in here. I think we're going to talk a lot about Eberflus. We're going to talk a lot about the players.
Probably they're the ones that hired him.
Yeah, I mean, yes, that and
probably why it's hard for him not to fire him too.
Okay, yes, I mean, then there's that angle going around today that hey, it would be awesome if Schottenheimer got to hire his own defensive coordinator. But even if he did, I don't think any defensive coordinator is having success with this group. This comes down to the Joneses wanting to play GM, but not wanting to invest enough time to actually be able to evaluate their own roster.
Listen, I'm with you. I'm with you that it all starts with the team building on that side of the ball being extremely poor, investing in bad players across the board, and continuing to reinvest in the same crap players.
Yeah.
But your defensive coordinator is also not doing a ton to help you. I think it's fair to say that there is a world where a defensive coordinator could make this instead of like dead balls last. Could you be 20th? Could you be 21st? What a difference it would be in your record to just be a bottom third defense instead of being this dumpster juice.
I think this is 2 years in a row where the guys are showing they don't want to buy in or they're not smart enough to learn it. You know,
and the numbers they basically have allowed the same points per game through 6 weeks this year as they did last year under Zim.
And there's been a lot of football played. I think it was Ed Werder who, outside of a couple of years with Dan Quinn for the last 6 years, Mike Nolan had his shot. We've seen a lot of bad football. I don't know about this bad. This might take the cake. Like how massively their defensive line was shoved all over the place yesterday. I didn't feel like I was watching a pro football outfit. I thought this looked like what would happen if college guys came up and tried to play.
Yeah, dude. You got like Marshawn Nealon getting bullied 10 yards down the field by a tight end who kind of looks like a receiver. Like what do we?
Although Tremble blocked his ass off yesterday. I mean, that's what you were hoping you were drafting in Schoonmaker. That guy was moving bodies. Now, is that an indictment maybe on the Cowboys players?
Yes,
could very well be.
Yes, and defensive tackles. I mean, you name it. The linebackers are bad. Just getting pushed around. I couldn't. For as much as I was complaining that Schottenheimer was still trying to hand the football off at times, I was honestly surprised that they were even trying to throw. Like Carolina, you're getting 7 yards every time you hand the football off.
Mm-hmm.
There was almost no reason to throw, but also you could find success doing that. The only time Carolina was unable to get points was when they just shot themselves in the foot with some penalties. And now we're like, oh, crap, we're in like 2nd and 20, 3rd and 20. That's the only way the Cowboys could get off the field unscathed.
Yeah, when that happened
or
to
Ted
them,
McMillan just dropping an easy right in his face football.
When they had back-to-back penalties there in the second half, I was like, okay, I'm pretty confident the Cowboys are going to get off the field here.
But still not sure.
But I was not sure. The Cowboys, though, Stephen Jones said they're shocked that the team isn't playing better. I think
they shouldn't be.
No, well,
they shouldn't be.
They shouldn't be. You're right.
No, and I think we've been very consistent on all our platforms that we have. The show, Love of the Star, everything we talk about. This defense was not going to be good enough. It just wasn't. You saw week 1 Philadelphia just kind of just shows you a little bit maybe Philadelphia, you mentioned it, maybe Philadelphia is not any good offensively. But week 1 you're like, okay, they played zone coverage, the quarterback played, ran around, didn't make any throws. But since then though, you really defensively you haven't really done anything. I mean, there's been a couple of games that the Jets.
The Jets is the only one, and we just saw them have a historically
and that's
bad.
what I'm saying, though. Mm-hmm. I just feel like, though, that everybody, the things, Dawson, that you asked for offensively, they've helped Dak with, and you get that. You get a legitimate running game. You get a play caller. You get the offensive line. You get receivers. You get things, the tight ends back to playing at a high level. Defensively, there was nothing there that led you to believe and there was so many questions about the secondary. There were so many questions about the linebackers. You know, the pass rush, you traded that away. You got mad at that guy and you traded him away. But there was nothing on this defense that was making you feel like that it was going to be a good defense. I don't think so. And I think we've talked about it enough. And the more you watch this team play, you know, they bust on the most simplest things. They just, you know, cover three. How hard is it to play cover three? There's nothing exotic about what Matt Eberflus is trying to do. Now, the problems that they're running into is they're not putting their players in any kind of position to have any kind of success. But that's something that's probably not going to change. That's just the stubbornness of what's going on right now over there. And you know, you look at the defensive line. You talk about, hell, they're just double teaming. You know, they talk about, oh well, Kenny Clark and he did this and that and the other. And Kenny Clark was on the ground a bunch yesterday.
Yeah,
single blocked a bunch yesterday. You know, the linebackers, Oso Diggies, all these guys are getting double teamed. They're jumping out of gaps. They're missing tackles in the hole. This defense was never going to be good enough. You needed it to be, you're asking it to be mid-pack. Heck, you'd sell your soul for it to be mid-pack right now.
Yeah.
It's a bottom of the league, the defense. And a lot of it is the coach isn't helping it, but the players certainly aren't playing at any kind of level, probably playing at the best level that they can play at right now. That's probably who they are.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the way I see it. I just think there are so many bad players, and it's exacerbated by the fact that your corners became washed up or broken down by injury. Maybe you're asking too much of them, but even when they try to play man, like even when they do the thing that some of the players want Eberflus to do, they're getting roasted even worse.
Yes, exactly.
You know, it's too easy for quarterbacks and wide receivers to get Donovan Wilson to bite on the inside. He is so aggressive. Yesterday, he slips and falls down. He was trying to move up so fast, and I feel like that's at least half their touchdowns. I think yesterday on their 3 passing touchdowns for Carolina, Donovan Wilson is flashing into the screen. I didn't watch the all-22 on those touchdowns, so I'm not exactly sure how it happened. But on the TV copy, he's the closest guy trying to make up ground as another easy Panthers touchdown is happening, and I don't think there's anything you can do about that. That's just who he is.
The second touchdown with Ted McMillan. The first one, they run the double move on him and he slips. You know, he's trying to carry a route and he slips. So that's an easy play right there. They couldn't get enough. I mean, the quarterback kind of moved to his left and then launched, and that was going to be a touch. But the second McMillan touchdown, though, that is one of those things where they're playing a coverage where all of a sudden there's communication between Diggs and Wilson, that Wilson's cool. I've got the tight end. You take the receiver. You see him signal, and then Wilson's like, what? And he still is coming across, and now he has to try and go back, and he's out of position. So you wonder if that communication, like, no, I got it, and then they switch it, but they switch it from Diggs is carrying a tight end to now Wilson having to carry a wide receiver that's skilled at making plays in the red zone.
Yeah, you should.
To me, that's an adjustment you don't make on the fly. You know, you just don't. And so it's very troubling how they're playing defense right now. And there's a lack of some physicality to it, but there's a lack of just when they're asking them to do certain things. These players, and a lot of them, are incapable of even doing the right thing to make the defense work.
Well, Rico Dowdle calling his shot and then going for over 200.
He probably watched the Cowboys play a bunch. He knew.
Whew. I mean, it's interesting some of the records that happen, but it's the most overall from a player yards from scrimmage against his former team, and that goes for undrafted, drafted, just period history. And then the 200 in a row for an undrafted guy. Just, salute and congrats to Rico Dowdle. I know he had a lot of friends and fans in that building there that are excited for him. But that goes as like a top 10 most embarrassing Cowboys defensive moment yesterday. And I think it would be louder, but Rico's just fairly anonymous. When Rico left, it was barely a topic. It was a ripple through the news cycle. Like, oh, okay, well, you'll probably get a better one. I'd love to have Rico back now to pair up with Javonte Williams. He's a pretty dang good football player. But the idea Kenny Clark could single-handedly change who they are against the run, that's done.
No.
The idea that Diggs and Bland are good corners, that idea is cooked. And I guess you're hoping that they can shake off rust and get right for 2026 if you're in their camp, but I have no faith that they're going to be good this year. The idea that Eberflus could help linebackers, that one is flushed. Marshawn Nealon, Sam Williams ever being good, that is out. I mean, they're just not good edges.
Yeah.
And, I think that goes down to being able to find good defensive players. I think obviously this scouting department's strength is on offense when it comes to the college draft. And then when it comes to evaluating and choosing who to pay, has Osa even come close in any game to being that caliber player?
I think last week against the Jets, a little bit better than what we've seen. I know you asked the question, but that's the one
game,
the one example that I can kind of think. I think yesterday, though, they clearly knew that doubling him was going to pay dividends for the way that they were going to run the football. They knew that, like, let's attack whoever's playing the 3 technique for Dallas. Because they said, okay, if you're not big, they didn't so much worry about Kenny Clark with the double teams and all that. From what I saw on tape, I don't think it was one of those. You look at how the Cowboys played their fronts and all that. I mean, there were a lot of the linebackers out of position. They tried to do some run stuff, run blitz stuff, and they get guy inside. They have nobody on the outside. The linebacker couldn't get over because he was getting blocked. I know the question was about Osa, but he got doubled a lot in that running game yesterday.
Yeah,
and I'm not using that as an excuse. I'm just saying they thought less of Kenny Clark than they did Osa Diggs.
But yeah, like that 3 tech, you think
they just pushed that 3
there's
tech.
like an emphasis for that, right, in this Flus scheme, or there was in the Marinelli scheme. So you're thinking, well, that's vital for what he wants to do, and you have not seen that translate so far through 6 weeks. An impactful player at that position, and it's a concern because you mentioned Diggs and Bland, like those are guys that are under contract. And those are guys that you keyed on. We shouldn't be talking about having poor corners. Those are 2 former All-Pro players.
Yeah.
You paid them and expected them to be backbones of your defense. And right now, they are looking terrible. Like Kyrie Elam, yeah. I mean, we were optimistic. I was, at least. It didn't work out. You see why Buffalo said, we're done here. We're moving on. The linebackers, I was hoping Flus would help here. That didn't happen. You're seeing Murray. I understand why the Chargers said bye-bye, why the Titans said adios, mofo. And then even, Shamar James and Maris Leaf, these young guys, I don't know. Like, I hope they get better and develop. But right now, there are so many question marks on defense, and even when they jump ahead of a contract with Bland, like you wait till the last minute, they get ahead on Bland. Now you're thinking, well, why the hell did you pay Deron Bland? So, I mean, if you're the Cowboys, you're like, well, what do you want me to do? I do it, and then now it was a bad decision, and the players aren't performing, so they're not getting return on the investment when they draft these guys right now on defense, and then on the second contracts when they decide to pay them. And that is a recipe for just a dysfunctional, bad, lack of talent defense. That's what they have right now.
Well, speaking of new players, how close are we getting to draft coverage here? I reckon if this does continue against Washington and Denver, we'll be pretty close.
I asked Dane Burglar for a list on the way from my studio over to the Star.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to watch somebody tonight.
Look at that. We're starting. We're underway.
Cleanse the palate with some good players.
We got to
start with the Ohio State defense and
Ohio State and Texas
Tech.
Cover this team like it needs to be covered, but just start kind of dabbling into that stuff at night.
Might need to look at Indiana's defense, man. Looks like they're playing some football.
That was a good job by Indiana. That's a big road win for them, man.
We don't need to look at trade targets this week, do we? Probably retire that. Start looking at college prospects.
Unless you can find 11 guys that are available.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it would take quite a few.